Title: The Secret He Left Behind, the chilling true story of Shayla Cabrera. The doorbell footage. Before we begin, hit subscribe and turn on notifications if you're not afraid to dive into the darkest corners of human nature. Because what you're about to hear is one of the most haunting true crime stories ever caught on camera. The doorbell camera captured everything. At 4:03 a.m., a man appeared in the grainy black and white footage, dragging something heavy across the concrete path of a quiet Lancaster neighborhood. Wrapped tightly in fabric, the object left faint streaks behind as he struggled to lift it into the trunk of a silver sedan. The street was silent. Not even the wind moved. But inside that bundle was his wife. Her name was Shayla Cabrera, 33 years old. Born and raised in Peru, she came to California with a dream, a better life for her 3 young boys. To her neighbors, she was radiant, hardworking, and endlessly kind. Her laughter was soft, her love for her children obvious to anyone who saw them together. But behind closed doors, that laughter often disappeared. Her husband, Josemar Cabrera Corno, was a man whose charm rarely reached his eyes. To outsiders, he looked like a devoted father, a husband just trying to make ends meet. But those who really knew the Cabreras understood, the tension in that apartment could be felt through the walls. Shayla's friends later told police that she lived in quiet fear. There were bruises she explained away. Phone calls she ended abruptly when he entered the room. And those who loved her most, especially her mother back in Peru, knew she was trapped in a cycle she didn't know how to escape. She told me he hit her, her mother said in an interview. He hit her, and even the children. By summer 2025, Shayla had finally reached her breaking point. Years of control, jealousy, and violence had left her drained. Her friends said she was planning to file for divorce, and she wasn't keeping it a secret anymore. She was terrified, said her best friend Elizabeth, but she was done. She said, "I'm leaving. I'm taking the kids. I just want peace." Peace, however, was not something Josemar would ever allow. On August 9th, Shayla made what would be her final phone call to her parents in Lima. She told them she was going to report Josemar for abuse, that she'd found an apartment in another part of Lancaster, that she was taking the boys and starting over. Her mother remembered her daughter's voice trembling but hopeful. It was the sound of a woman imagining freedom for the first time in years. But freedom can be dangerous when it means taking control away from a man obsessed with power. That night, neighbors later reported hearing muffled shouting from the Cabreras' apartment. Nothing unusual, arguments had become a weekly occurrence. One neighbor described it as something we learned to tune out. Only this time the shouting stopped suddenly, replaced by the sound of something heavy dropping to the floor. No one called the police. At 2:40 a.m., a woman returning home from her night shift noticed Josemar outside. He was cleaning the trunk of the family car, wearing gloves, moving with eerie calm. She told reporters later, "It was strange. Nobody cleans a car trunk at that hour. I got chills. I just went inside." 2 hours later, the Ring doorbell captured him again, this time dragging the wrapped bundle. His movements were deliberate, not panicked. He looked around once, twice, then disappeared off camera as the trunk slammed shut. By sunrise, the Cabrera apartment was quiet. The children were inside, asleep. Their mother was gone. When friends couldn't reach Shayla the next day, they grew concerned. She always texted back, especially when it came to her boys. Calls went unanswered. Messages stayed unread. By the second day, panic spread. Elizabeth drove to the apartment and knocked repeatedly. Josemar opened the door halfway, his expression blank. "She's not here," he said. "She went out." "Where?" He shrugged. "Maybe with friends. Maybe immigration took her." That was his first story. But when detectives arrived to take a missing person report, his story changed. He told them Shayla had left with another man. Later, he said she'd been in an accident, but he couldn't say where or when. Every answer contradicted the last. Investigators grew suspicious. They searched the apartment, but it was spotless. Too spotless. No trace of blood. No sign of a struggle. Except for one thing, faint smudges of something reddish-brown near the bathroom floor drain. Samples were sent to the lab. Detectives canvassed the building for surveillance footage. And that's when they found it. A neighbor's doorbell camera angled just enough to capture the walkway outside the Cabrera unit. At 4:03 a.m. on August 10th, the motion sensor light flickered on. There he was, Josemar, dragging the heavy wrapped bundle across the concrete toward his car. The weight bent his knees. His face was calm, focused. When detectives pressed pause and zoomed in, they saw it. A glimpse of fabric identical to a missing bedsheet from the couple's apartment. The kind of detail you don't forget once you've seen it. The footage was enough to turn a missing person case into a homicide investigation. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department took over immediately. Within 72 hours, the story made local news. Shayla's friends organized a vigil. Her mother begged for help from Peru. But while investigators combed through hours of footage, they also realized something even more alarming. Josemar and the couple's 3 children were gone too. The car he'd used in the video was missing. Border checkpoints were alerted. And then a single clue surfaced, a toll booth camera south of San Diego showing Josemar's car crossing into Mexico. The timestamp read August 11, 3:42 p.m. By the time police arrived at the border, he was long gone. But 3 days later, deep in the Angeles National Forest, a search team spotted something at the bottom of a rocky ravine. A flash of patterned fabric, half buried under dry brush. When they climbed down the slope and pulled back the cloth, what they found changed everything. The forest discovery. If you're just joining this story, go hit subscribe and turn on that notification bell, because what happens next isn't just shocking. It's the part investigators still can't talk about without pausing mid-sentence. The Angeles National Forest, 700,000 acres of rugged wilderness just an hour from Los Angeles. By day it's peaceful. Pine-covered mountains. Endless trails. But by night, it becomes something else, vast, silent, and terrifying. On August 16th, 6 days after Shayla Cabrera disappeared, that forest became the center of a homicide investigation. The Montrose Search and Rescue Team had been combing the steep canyons near Highway 2 since sunrise. It was the kind of search that often ends in silence, until one of the rescuers spotted something unnatural against the brown earth. A corner of floral-patterned fabric, tangled in the brush 20 feet down an embankment. When they got closer, the smell hit first. Then they saw the outline. A body wrapped tightly, weighted down by stones and branches. The same material from the doorbell footage. Detectives from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Homicide Bureau were on the scene within an hour. They marked the site with bright yellow tape, their radios crackling as the reality of what they'd found began to sink in. The woman inside that bundle had been missing for almost a week. Now she had a name again. Shayla Cabrera. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators stood in silence for several moments before beginning the grim task of documenting every inch of the area. Tire tracks in the dirt. A discarded latex glove. A faint trail of footprints leading back toward the roadside. But what struck them most wasn't the brutality, it was the precision. Whoever had dumped her body knew the area. The embankment wasn't visible from the road. You had to park at just the right angle in just the right place to hide what you were doing from passing cars. And Josemar Cabrera had worked construction in the area years earlier. He would have known the stretch of highway. Back in Lancaster, detectives broke the news to Shayla's friends. Elizabeth, the woman who had tried to save her, sobbed outside City Hall as reporters gathered around. "We told her to leave him," she said, "but she was scared. She kept saying, 'If I go, he'll take my boys.'" Her words hit like a prophecy. Because as investigators soon learned, Josemar had done exactly that. When they entered the couple's apartment with a second warrant, forensic specialists found signs of cleanup. Bleach residue, missing linens, and small reddish smears under a refrigerator leg that the killer hadn't reached. Under a blacklight, it was clear. Someone had wiped down nearly every surface. Luminol tests revealed faint outlines of what appeared to be drag marks leading from the bedroom to the hallway. In the bathroom drain, lab results came back with a positive match: Shayla's blood. The murder weapon, investigators believed, was a kitchen knife. The same set was found missing one blade. Meanwhile, the FBI's fugitive task force traced Josemar's movements through border security footage. His silver sedan appeared in Mexico within 24 hours of Shayla's death. From there, he traveled through Baja California, likely switching vehicles multiple times before entering mainland Mexico and crossing into Peru. Interpol was notified. A red notice was issued, effectively making him an internationally wanted man. But the investigation took another turn when Mexican authorities reported that Josemar hadn't been alone when he crossed the border. 3 young children were with him, ages 9, 6, and 4. His sons. The same children who had slept just a few feet away from the room where their mother was murdered. Detectives worked around the clock with consulates in Mexico and Peru. Every hour counted. If Josemar vanished deeper into South America, finding him, and those children, could take years. For Shayla's family in Lima, the waiting was unbearable. Her mother, Helga, spoke to reporters from her small living room, clutching a photo of her daughter. "He killed her," she said, "and took my grandchildren. I just want them home." Her plea aired across Peruvian television. That night, local police in Lima received a tip. A man matching Josemar's description had been spotted at Jorge Chávez International Airport with 3 small boys. When authorities approached, he was calm, eerily so. He showed their passports and claimed he was returning home after his wife disappeared. Without an active arrest warrant from the U.S., Peruvian police had no grounds to hold him. They questioned him briefly, released him, but kept the children for safety. That decision, to separate him from his sons, may have saved their lives. The next morning, under heavy coordination between the Peruvian and U.S. governments, the 3 boys were flown to Los Angeles. Waiting for them at the airport was their grandmother, Helga, flown in from Lima to take custody. Reporters captured the moment she stepped off the plane, tears streaming down her face as she held her grandchildren for the first time since the tragedy. "They don't understand," she whispered. "They just ask for their mom." Meanwhile, back in California, the district attorney's office prepared formal charges. 1 count of murder with the special allegation of using a knife. Josemar Cabrera was now officially a fugitive wanted for first-degree homicide. But it wasn't over yet, because investigators found something strange when they re-examined the doorbell footage frame by frame. As Josemar dragged the body across the pavement, a reflection flickered on the car window. A faint movement in the background. Someone else was there. A figure, small, crouched near the staircase, barely visible in the shadows. The footage wasn't clear enough to identify them. But it meant one terrifying thing. Josemar hadn't been alone that night. Was it one of the children? A neighbor? Or someone helping him dispose of Shayla's body? Detectives didn't know yet. But they were sure of one thing. The case wasn't just about a man who killed his wife. It was about a secret someone else was helping him keep. And when police dug deeper into Josemar's past, what they uncovered about his life in Peru would make the story even darker. The secret he left behind. If you've made it this far, hit subscribe, because what's about to unfold isn't just the end of a case. It's the unraveling of a lie so deep, it reached across borders, families, and years of buried violence. 4 detectives in Los Angeles County, Shayla Cabrera's murder had turned into something far more complex than they'd imagined. The evidence, the doorbell footage, the blood in the bathroom, the body in the Angeles National Forest, it all pointed to one man, Josemar Cabrera Corno. But that blurry reflection on the car window haunted them. Someone else had been there. At first, they thought it might be one of the children, a heartbreaking possibility. But when investigators enhanced the footage frame by frame, something didn't fit. The shape was too tall, the movement too deliberate. Whoever it was had watched Josemar drag his wife's body to the car, then disappeared into the shadows. And that's when a new lead emerged. Detectives received an anonymous tip from Peru, a woman claiming she had known Josemar before he moved to the United States. She refused to give her name but said something that made every investigator in the room freeze. "He did the same thing here," she whispered. "Years ago." The call led investigators to Lima's Miraflores district, where Josemar had lived nearly a decade earlier. Local police confirmed that in 2016 he had been questioned, but never charged, in the disappearance of a former girlfriend, Mariana Pineda, a 27-year-old hairdresser who vanished after reporting him for assault. The case had gone cold. No witnesses. No body. But the anonymous caller knew details that were never public. How Mariana had confided to friends she was pregnant, how she'd planned to leave Josemar the week she disappeared, and how neighbors heard loud arguing from her apartment the night before she vanished. Sound familiar? Detectives now realized something chilling. Shayla's murder wasn't an isolated act of rage. It was a pattern, a ritual of control that spanned continents. Josemar had left Peru after Mariana's disappearance, moving to the U.S. under the guise of starting fresh. He met Shayla through a mutual friend in the Peruvian community of Lancaster. She was kind, trusting, newly arrived, and looking for stability. He offered it. At first. Then, just like before, the control began. The jealousy. The isolation. The fear. Back in Lima, the pressure was building. The Interpol red notice meant Josemar couldn't go anywhere without risking capture. On August 27, 2025, 17 days after the murder, he walked into Interpol headquarters in Lima and surrendered. The video of his arrest spread across social media. Josemar, head down, handcuffed, wearing a black polo with an Interpol insignia. Flanked by officers, he looked calm, like a man who believed he could talk his way out of anything. But this time he couldn't. The evidence against him was overwhelming. The video, the blood, the timeline. the body. Still, what came next stunned even veteran detectives. When Peruvian authorities processed his belongings, they found a small USB drive hidden inside a false pocket of his backpack. The files were encrypted, labeled in Spanish, Recuerdos Familiares, family memories. But when investigators cracked the encryption, what they found wasn't photos of his children. It was a series of videos, home footage filmed on Josemar's phone, dating back years. And in one of them he recorded himself, sitting in a dark room, talking directly to the camera. The video was time-stamped August 11th, the day after Shayla's murder. He spoke in Spanish, his tone flat and cold. She wouldn't listen. She wanted to take my sons from me. I told her if she left, there would be consequences. No one leaves me. He smiled slightly as if proud of what he'd done. Then he said something investigators will never forget. They'll find her. I made sure of that. But by then I'll be gone. The camera cut to black. It wasn't just a confession. It was a trophy. A digital signature of a killer who wanted the last word. When the footage became public, outrage spread across California. Vigils were held in Lancaster, Los Angeles, and even Lima. Thousands of people shared Shayla's story online under one message, not one more. Back in California, her 3 sons were placed in the care of their grandmother, Helga. They were safe, but the trauma lingered. The oldest boy reportedly told social workers, "I saw Dad cleaning. He said Mom was sleeping." That statement alone sent chills through the courtroom when it was read aloud. Josemar remains in custody in Peru, awaiting extradition. The process could take months, but prosecutors in Los Angeles have already prepared the case. People versus Cabrera Corno, charging him with first-degree murder and special circumstances for the use of a deadly weapon. If convicted, he faces life in prison. But for investigators, one mystery still hangs in the air, that shadow in the video. The figure who watched. Was it a neighbor who saw too much and stayed silent? Or someone who helped him clean up afterward? Detectives have never released the answer. And maybe they never will. What they have said is this: more than one set of footprints was found at the forest dump site. So perhaps Josemar wasn't acting alone. The story of Shayla Cabrera isn't just about one man's violence. It's about a system that let her warnings go unheard. A mother who tried to leave. A community that saw the signs. And a camera that caught the truth he thought no one would ever see. Her mother still keeps a candle burning every night. She died trying to be free, Helga says. And I want people to remember her for that, not how she was taken. As for Josemar Cabrera, the man who thought he could escape justice, his trial will determine his fate. But for Shayla's children, the sentence has already been written. A lifetime without their mother. They thought the doorbell footage was the end of the story. But months later, an officer reviewing old surveillance clips from the apartment complex discovered something no one had noticed before. A second figure following Josemar to the car. Smaller. Wearing gloves. Carrying what looked like a bag. That clip remains sealed by investigators. And no one, not the police, not the courts, not even Shayla's family, knows who that person was. If this story chilled you to the core, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe and remember, behind every quiet neighborhood door, there's a story someone doesn't want told.